Another day, another laptop announcement. Acer just announced their lineup at CES 2023, and there's a lot, but I want to specifically focus on the Predator Helios 16 and the Acer Predator Helios 18, because I think these two laptops are interesting because Acer is redesigning the chassis of the 16-inch model and also using it on the brand new 18-inch version. Now, granted, they're obviously taking a playbook out of Lenovo's page or Alienware's page by placing a lot of the ports on the back of the laptop. This is a good idea. I mean, it works. We've seen Legion laptops. They're very well cooled. The performance is fantastic. And when you have that extra space at the back, it just gives these manufacturers a bit more room to play with. I also think the look and the design of the laptop is actually nice. You know, Acer is slowly getting away from that aggressive gaming design and keeping things fairly clean. Now, there is a bit of RGB at the back, which is not that intrusive. And quite frankly, if you don't like it, you can turn it off, but I do think it gives the laptop some character and kind of gives it its own flavor. Now, I like having the ports on the back. By having the ports on the back, it just keeps things away from your desk or cables away from your desk if you have this thing plugged in all the time. And there's tons of I/O to go along with it. For example, the power connectors on the back, they will be including a 330 watt power brick in the box. That's like a chunky thing. And if you buy the 16-inch version of the laptop, you're looking at a laptop that weighs around 6 pounds, especially if you buy the version with a mini LED display. And if you go for the 18-inch model, it's gonna weigh closer to 7 pounds. So these things are gonna be quite heavy. You also have an HDMI 2.1 port, and then of course you have 2 times Thunderbolt 4 ports. On the left-hand side, on both laptops, there'll be an RJ45 port, I'm guessing 2.5 gigabits, USB-A 3.2 port, micro SD card slot, audio combo jack, and then on the right-hand side, you're gonna have an additional 2 USB-A ports. Now, both of these laptops will have the exact same ports, regardless if you go for the 16 or 18-inch version. The only differences will come down to the keyboard deck size. It looks like we get a slightly bigger touchpad on the 18-inch version. And obviously, because the chassis is bigger, I'm expecting the 18-inch model to offer better cooling overall. Displays are gonna be absolutely gorgeous. Regardless of whether you go for the 16 or the 18 version, you have the option to spec either model with a mini LED display. And if you wanna save a few bucks, you can drop that down to IPS. There's a 240 hertz version, 165 hertz version, but granted, there's no more 1080p. All of these laptops will come standard with a QHD Plus display. It's not 16 by 9, but it's 16 by 10. So you have that additional vertical space, which gives you the best of both worlds between gaming and productivity. Now, I'm obviously excited for the mini LED version. In fact, you're gonna see a lot of laptops coming out this year using a mini LED display. It's gonna be able to achieve peak brightnesses over 1100 nits, and you're also just gonna get impeccable black levels, you're gonna get more vibrancy, and of course, HDR is going to look incredible. It just makes a big difference in some of the games that we're used to playing. Now, the keyboards are kind of interesting. It's hard to tell, but it looks like Acer's sticking with those rubber keys, but they are adding mini LED key backlighting, and it's gonna be per key RGB. Both of these laptops will come with a numeric keypad. Of course, they'll continue the tradition of including a turbo button on the top left corner of the laptop that will allow you to easily switch between different profiles. Now, I don't know what type of webcam's in here. It's probably 720p, because if it was 1080p, they would list it on their marketing materials. But you will get 2 external speakers. They're gonna be bottom facing. They're probably not gonna be sounding that great just because it's Acer and they never take external sound seriously. But what should be epic is the actual performance. You can spec the 16 or 18-inch version with an i9 13900HX or an i7 13700HX processor. This has a higher base clock speed of 55 watts compared to last year's H series processor that was inside the 12900H of the Helios 16. Now, you can buy this with up to 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, but I'm assuming you can upgrade it to 64 if you purchase your own kit. This will have the opportunity to buy with an NVIDIA 40 series card. I don't know the exact ones that will be paired with this, but I'm guessing for the price point of $1649 and $1699, you're probably gonna get a 4060. That's probably where it's gonna start and go all the way up to a 4090, depending on the price point. Could you imagine they released this laptop with a 4050 for $1649? That would be terrible. $1649 is in line with last year's model using a 3060. So it looks like they're not raising prices too much. You will have a very fast NVMe SSD with the potential to put it into RAID 0. Now, the overall performance will be very nice. Most of that performance will come from the NVIDIA GPUs because this year's 40 series has a huge uplift compared to any previous generation. The Intel processor will provide up to about 10% increase in single core clock speeds and anywhere from 30 to 40% in terms of multi-core speeds. So overall, expect a 10 to 12% uplift in gaming due to the CPU, and then the rest will be because of the actual GPU. Now, I don't know what battery life is gonna be like, but based on Intel and how hot, how much heat these things produce, it's gonna be very similar to the previous year. Anywhere from like 3 to 4 hours doing general productivity, probably an hour to an hour and a half if you're just doing regular gaming. The battery size is gonna be 90 watt hours, so it's not the legal limit of 99, but it's still a fairly big battery, which you kind of need in these laptops since there's just so much performance being sucked out of it. Obviously, you can use the Type-C ports to charge it up to 100 watts, but you'll still be able to upgrade most of the stuff. RAM will be upgradable, NVMe SSD will be upgradable, hopefully the Wi-Fi card will be upgradable. This is using Wi-Fi 6E. There's no vapor chamber, which is kind of disappointing. They are using vector heat pipes. There is 5th gen AeroBlade fans, but it still doesn't compare to a good vapor chamber cooler. Now, the only reason to go for the 18-inch version is for better cooling because it's in a bigger chassis and obviously the bigger display. Personally, I'm really excited about 18-inch laptops. Not so much for a traveling format, but for more of a desktop replacement. Having a bigger 18-inch display is just so much better for actual gaming. And I'm also glad they're transitioning away from 15-inch laptops, giving us 16-inch versions with 16:10 displays because it's truly the best of both worlds. Now, these laptops will be coming out in March, so stay tuned for that. I will be reviewing that, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Obviously, between now and then, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Just drop them in the comment section down below. More CES coverage coming out. Make sure you're tuned in for that. Like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.